Packed planes, storms, delays, holiday stress, often a combustible combination in America's airports, and we have seen the results, especially on social media. Here to explain your rights as you travel to Grandma's house, Michael Winkleman, attorney at law from Miami, Florida. Good to see you, Counselor. Thank you.
Nice to see you also. Happy Thanksgiving.
So have people just begun to lose their minds when it comes to travel, or are we just seeing it now because everything we do is recorded?
Well, frankly, I mean, my generation, I don't have a recollection of the good old days of airline travel. It's always been a bit of a nightmare. I'm traveling across the country in a few weeks with my two little kids and my wife, and I'm certainly not looking forward to it. But I think the one thing that I take solace in knowing is that I do have rights as a passenger. We see all these terrible stories on Facebook, but there's what's referred to as the Passenger Bill of Rights, and I think there's two important points. Number one, if you're stuck on a plane for 2 to 3 hours, you do have rights. You have a right to be able to have working bathrooms, you have a right to food, you have a right to water, and most importantly, if it's more than 3 hours, you have a right to get off of that plane. The other important point is that if you get what they call bumped due to overbooked, you have a right to be compensated up to 2 to 3 times the full value of that one-way fare. So if you get bumped due to overcrowding, don't be afraid to negotiate with them. Don't take the first offer. Negotiate and see how much you can get, because that can be at least a way to compensate you for the time you and your family have lost.
So often when these incidents begin at airports, and if you fly a lot, you've seen it, everybody whips out their cell phone and starts recording it, which tends to perhaps provide a record, but at the same time, it often raises the intensity level and gets everybody a little more defensive. What's your advice to folks? At what point is it worth pulling out your cell phone and begin recording whatever way you think you're being wronged?
Oh, I'm all about corporate accountability, and the less public something is, the more corporations can get away with all the little bad things that they try to get away with. So I say pull out the cell phone from the first moment that you can, because without us really knowing what actually happened, you can't really hold them accountable. So I have no problem with the general public using their videos as much as they can in order to document what actually goes on.
Yeah, we're watching in the right-hand side of the screen some of the passengers that have been dragged off planes by law enforcement. Oftentimes, as you pointed out, one guy was going to be bumped, and we know how that ended up for United Airlines. Where does the passenger's right stop and the airline's right start in terms of passengers behaving badly?
Sure. And come on, there's certainly a lot of passengers that do behave badly, but it seems to be only the stories that we see about the airlines behaving badly. And I think your answer to that question is just as good as mine. It's, what's reasonable. And, this is Thanksgiving. I think we all have to be good, decent people, try to do the right thing, treat your flight attendant nicely and in a good way, and I think generally they'll treat you back in a nice way. So I think if everybody just took a deep breath and tried to get around the stress of it and act in a nice way to one another, maybe we could all get along a little bit better.
What a wonderful Thanksgiving message. If everybody did that, we wouldn't need trial attorneys, would we?
It would probably be a better world without us. But, at the end of the day, there's a lot of bad things that happen, and trial lawyers are here to make sure things are right and that justice is done, that ephemeral term.
Well, oftentimes in travel situations, you all have found justice for folks, especially as we saw what happened with the United case as well. Hopefully, nobody will have to call you because of their travel nightmare, but good advice all around.
I appreciate that.
Happy Thanksgiving. Good to see you. You don't often hear lawyers who are that honest about things. It was refreshing.